Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, Before we get started, I'm just going to share a few housekeeping things. As I mentioned earlier, this session is being recorded, so it will be shared with all of you probably early next week. And if you have any colleagues who couldn't join us today, don't worry, they will receive a recording. We're also planning to do a blog where we will write up the kind of key takeaways from this session. So all of that will be shared with you early next week. You should be able to enable closed captions at the bottom of your screen, so hopefully that is useful. If you have any questions, please do ask them throughout the session in the Q&A box. We are taking notes of them and we'll ask our panelists all the questions you have at the end. And if we can't get through all of the questions, then we'll make sure that we answer them in the blog that we'll publish soon. And if you have any tech issues, just let us know in the Q&A, or if you can use the chat in the chat, you can message Anna and me. Anna is with us in the background today. Hello, Anna. Thank you for being here, and we'll be dealing with any questions that you have. So I'm Stella, I'm the Partnerships Director here at Forward Action, and I think most of you here know who we are, but just in case you don't, we are a digital mobilization agency. We work with charities and progressive causes, helping them to maximize their impact by using digital channels and tools to grow their audiences online and really engage them, whether that's through fundraising, campaigning, both, ideally everything. We work with some incredible organizations. One of them is Surface Against Sewage, who we are very lucky to have with us today. And as you all know, today we will be talking about fundraising propositions and what you can learn from our work with Surface Against Sewage to make your own appeal stand out. We know that many charities are beginning to plan their winter appeals right now. Obviously, many of you are here today, so you find this is relevant to you. A huge part of our work with our partners is the creative process. So really nailing the overarching proposition for an appeal, developing the key messages that go with it, before then building out all of the assets, all the emails, the landing pages, the paid social ads, everything that translates that proposition and those concepts into content that really motivate people to take action and specifically to make a donation. So this is what today is all about. We run a brilliant campaign with Surface Against Sewage. We have a couple of wonderful people today with us who will talk about it. We have our very own Jessica Hailstone, who's one of our senior digital creative experts here at Forward Action, and Olivia Jeffries, who is the Senior Giving and Engagement Officer from Surface Against Sewage. So before I hand over to them, we just wondered how prepared you are for your winter appeal. And if you could tell us, give us an indication between 1 and 10, with 10 being the most prepared. If you still can't use the chat, then please just use the Q&A function, and I will take a look at those, and we'll see how prepared you all feel. Okay. Thank you for sending in your answers through the Q&A. Excellent. So we have a range of answers. People are saying 4, some people are saying 1, some people are saying 7. So hopefully the session today will be giving you all the practical tips that you need to help you feel much more confident about your winter appeal planning. And I feel this is the right time of year to get started. So I will hand over to Jessica to get us going. You are on mute.
There we go. Sorry, just figuring out how to unmute myself. Yeah, so I'm going to quickly run you through what we'll cover in today's webinar. So we'll start with a quick scene setting, find out about Surfers Against Sewage's work and their incredible mission, what led them to do the Big Give Challenge in the first place and what their aims were, and also how that turned into a huge success. And then we'll talk about kind of using Surfers Against Sewage as an example. We'll talk about 4 key lessons that kind of help set up their now or never appeal for success that you can kind of apply to your winter fundraising especially when you're kind of starting planning and thinking about how you'll kind of frame your messaging. And then finally, we'll cover what's next for Surfers Against Sewage and how they're going to build on the success of this campaign. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat at any point. We'll either answer them straight away or right at the end. We'll have 15 minutes to answer them. So I'm now going to pass on to Olivia. And just with a few questions, first of all, could you tell us a little bit about Surfers Against Sewage?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Olivia from Surfers Against Sewage. We are a marine conservation and campaigning charity based in Cornwall. And here at SAS, we believe that for people to thrive and live life to the fullest, the ocean must thrive too. So we're campaigning to confront everything that threatens it. We take action on the ground that triggers change up at the top. So to do that, we run large-scale community mobilizations like our Million Mile Clean to clean up the UK's beaches, rivers, and green spaces. We also have unique tools that help people enjoy the water, like our Safer Seas and Rivers Service app, which provides real-time pollution alerts across swim and surf spots around the UK. And of course, we have our hard-hitting campaigns, raising awareness of all the issues threatening the ocean. Most recently, you may have seen our Voters Against Floaters tour bus, which was traveling the country around in the run-up to the general election. And we hosted hustings. We met with candidates to ask important ocean-saving questions. We also visited key players in the water industry to get our message across ahead of the election that we are sick of sewage and to clean up our oceans and rivers once and for all.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about your appeal with the Big Give and what you are hoping to achieve?
Yeah, so we've run a few Big Give appeals in the past. And last year we were able to raise 140,000 through the Green Match Fund appeal. And this year we initially set ourselves the already ambitious target of raising £180,000. But then we were actually able to stretch that to the full amount available, £200,000, when we accessed some more match funding. And the reason for wanting to aim so high this year is that we had a lot of plans and a lot of opportunities available in 2024. Of course, with the general election, the submission of water companies' 5-year investment plans, and rising public awareness and anger around the state of our rivers, lakes, and seas. So we really needed the resource to be able to seize every opportunity to demand the systemic change that we need and clean up our oceans and rivers for good. And Big Give appeals are really crucial fundraising moments for us. They bring in large sums of unrestricted funds and, of course, the opportunity to double public donations through match funding. But on a fundraising side of things, it is an amazing opportunity for us to build on our learnings and test out new tactics and build our insight for fundraising and supporter engagement throughout the year as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how we built the appeal together. So as Olivia said, their goal was to raise £200,000 in the Big Give Green Match Fund. For those who aren't aware, the Big Give is a match funded campaign. So that means half of this goal was supplied by Surfers Against Sewage's major donors, funders, and it was up to the rest of the public to make this up through public donations. This was their biggest Big Give target yet. As Olivia said, last year they had the Cut the Crap Save Our App appeal, which raised a really great £143,000. And this year, there was a lot of kind of work going on with them, but they didn't have one clear service that they needed to, standout service that they needed to raise money for. So our creative challenge really was to tie all the strands of Surfers Against Sewage's work together to show why giving now is urgent and why it's really vital to hit that big target, which was their biggest target yet. And here were the results. So we sent out 9 emails to Surfers Against Sewage's list of 143,000 people. So that's 1.3 million emails in inboxes. 3,734 people made a donation with an average donation of £27.92. And we raised 104% of the target, which is £208,000, which is really incredible work. So yeah, it was a huge success. And what was key to all of this was the fundraising proposition, which was the now or never appeal. So that's the fundraising proposition is the kind of motivating narrative that's underpinning all the creative and tactics that we then used in this appeal. And it kind of, you come up with it right at the beginning. And it's more than just one message or video. It's this underlying story with a strong hook or angle that shows the urgency of why people need to give and give now. And for SAS, now or never seemed to be a very good proposition for them. It encapsulated a huge swell of momentum they've had campaigning over many years, and this potential upcoming election, the potential new government. So lots of change, potential for a lot of change to happen, and for all their campaigns to clean up sewage to finally become law change. So how does this relate when you're planning your winter appeal? Well, they come obviously around every winter. They're not waiting for your organization's perfect moment when you have that one service that you need specific funds for. But you don't want to be too repetitive either and just talk about the same thing every year. You want your appeal to be engaging, feel like it's of this moment, and for it to really stand out from other winter appeals. And that's where the fundraising proposition comes in. So now we're going to look at Surfers Against Sewage's Now or Never appeal and look at 4 steps to building a target smashing fundraising proposition using their work as an example. And you can use these steps when you're planning your winter appeal. It seems like some of you may already very much be underway, but whatever stage you're at, this might be able to help you. So let's start from the very beginning, finding your hook. So the hook is the angle that makes your appeal really interesting and stand out for your supporters. It's your big attention-grabbing theme of your appeal that's directly telling your supporters, this is why you should give now. And to find your hook, you want to start by thinking really big, getting everyone in a room together, lots of different teams, not just your fundraising team, thinking about all your aims, all the work you're doing at the moment, and how it's tied to what's going on in the world. So is there an election? Is there a big crisis happening in the news? What are people talking about? How can you make the work that you're doing feel like it's very of this moment and timely? And there are some really simple key questions that you can ask to help find your hook. So firstly, why this? This is your time to spell out exactly what the problem is that your organization is trying to solve and why donating will change things. So this can seem like a really simple question to ask, but often when you get everyone in a room together, they have a very different answer. So it's really good to nail that part down. The next question is why now? So as we talked before, making donating feel as timely as possible. This is really important, especially if you don't have one specific service you need funding for and you feel like your work is just ongoing. You really need to make the ask feel like a now moment, that today is the day to donate. Next, why me? So why the donor, I guess, is the real question. So people don't just donate because of a need. They donate because of how it makes them feel. So think about what motivating emotions are motivating your audiences to give. So is it anger? Is it hope? Is it guilt? Is it a sense of community? You want to make sure your fundraising proposition is really meeting supporters' feelings and values here. And the last question is what for? So what is the genuine and tangible need for money? What work are you doing right now that needs support? So think about all the different kind of work that your project teams are doing. What are people actually funding when they're donating to you? And this is because when you're really specific about what you're asking for, your appeal tends to work a lot better. So this is how we helped Surfers Against Sewage find their hook. We carried out a cross-team workshop, bringing together fundraising team, comms teams, and people all across the organization to answer some of their key questions that kind of to help underpin their fundraising proposition. So first we asked the kind of why now question. We asked them what's new for Surfers Against Sewage this year. And as Olivia has mentioned, they gave us so much information about all the different campaigns they're working on. They've worked to help clean up sewage in Scotland and Wales. They're working to make sure water companies are more transparent about data. And they also said that this is a really big moment for them with the upcoming election. And they have this amazing End Sewage Pollution Manifesto where they have lots of big goals. So yeah, they had a lot of reasons for a why now. Then we asked them the what for. So what are they raising money for? What are their specifics? And again, they told us a lot of amazing things. They're training community members to carry out local campaigns. They are keeping their app running, which is helping 250,000 people swim safely in areas that don't have sewage. And they're helping their campaigns team publish policy plans that go and try and get to Parliament so they get their messages heard. So then we asked them why this, what's the problem they're trying to solve, and what's their goal. And they told us a lot of things there. So they told us about with water companies withholding data, making it really difficult for accurate information about sewage. They told us about needing extra support so they could plan for the election. And also they need to help train up community members and help, get their campaigns heard. And then finally, we asked them, why me? What would motivate someone to give? And they had loads of great answers here about anger, disgust, fury or love, injustice. And a lot of Surfers Against Sewage supporters are avid swimmers or potentially live in seaside towns and probably feel really connected to the cause and probably have seen sewage in their area. So yeah, there was a lot of motivating emotions for them there. So we pulled all these ideas together. And when you're at the early stage, this many ideas is a good thing. You really don't want to limit yourselves too much. And after we ran the workshop, it came to our side where we then pulled their ideas together into 3 propositions, and each had a very different hook or angle. And we gave them, this is for them to choose from. So in an ideal world, we'd have time to test all these 3 framings, but it was a very quick turnaround time. So we just left it to Surfers Against Sewage to choose their favourite and what felt the most relevant for them. So proposition 1 was now or never. And that was around stopping years of their campaigns work from being undone. Very much had an election theme. Now is the time for chance for change in a new election. And donating would help raise funds to run hustings, rally MPs, and mobilise more people for change. The second proposition was the biggest sewage appeal yet. So this was really focused on the fact that this was their biggest target yet. And it was around helping raise more money than ever. After years of building up great momentum, the big give would be their chance to go bigger, fight harder, and have double the impact. And then the third proposition we came up with was SOS, we're sick of sewage. And this was very much an outrage proposition, the idea that enough is enough. It's time to stop poisonous sewage in its tracks. And disgusting sewage just has to stop pouring into the ocean, and donating can help stop that. And each idea harnesses a different kind of value or emotion, as we were talking about. And when you're crafting your propositions, it's really great to think about what your donors might be thinking about. What are their values and what's motivating them here? So the first proposition was very urgent. It's time for change. It's now or never. If you don't give now, you might miss out on a huge opportunity. The second proposition was very much movement building. I want to be part of this huge appeal. I want to be a part of this something big. And the third proposition was outrage. So the feeling of that's just so wrong and disgusting. And I want to be a part of stopping that. And Surfers Against Sewage chose the now or never appeal as the fundraising proposition they wanted to go with for this Big Give campaign. They felt that this most closely reflected their mood internally and their excitement for change in an upcoming election. It's important to note that at this time, no one knew an election would come so soon. So this was a bold choice. No one knew that it was going to happen just 2 months after their appeal. So it worked out very well for them in that way. And this is what the proposition looked like. This is how we would write it out. So it's now or never for turning the tide on sewage being poured into our rivers. Sewage is well and truly headline news. Hundreds of thousands of people have reported it. MPs have debated it. And even water companies have admitted it's a problem. Then it goes on to the more movement building feeling. Together, we've won the argument. we have the public pressure, the political will, and the solutions ready to go, but now we need to win real change. And then relating it to the election, we need to give it everything we've got. And at this critical stage in our fight, everyone needs to play their part. And chipping into this appeal will stop years of their progress, winning campaigns from being lost. So yeah, it feels timely and urgent. It's now or never. There's a huge feeling of movement building, and there's also the clear need and impact. If you don't give, you might it might end up to years of progress from being lost. So once they had this fantastic proposition, now there's the work to build out the building blocks of the story and how you're going to plan your campaign with that messages. Because you can't just make a whole appeal just around one document or one kind of piece of messaging. This is the moment when you can plan out the structure of your story. So what's the beginning, middle, and end of your appeal going to look like? What will each chapter look like? And what voices are you going to use? What stories are the ones you want to tell about the work that you're doing? So really don't hold yourself back in how you tell your story. Like with anything, when anyone tells a story, when anyone retells a story they've heard, they'll tell it in a different way. So you don't have to stick really rigidly to the first messaging that you've got. And we wanted to send these emails from a range of different voices related to Surfers Against Sewage. So people weren't feeling like, oh, this is so repetitive, I'm getting all the same emails from the same person. It keeps it keeping it very fresh. And we just had 7 days and a huge target. So we wanted to plan 7 emails and plan an email for each day. And the idea was to start with a really official beginning. So from Surfers Against Sewage's founder, Chris Hines, feeling like this official launch and showing the really big reason why you need to give now, through to the middle of the campaign. This is where we mixed it up with surveys, polls, and quizzes, and a mix of voices. And then finishing with a really urgent, you have 24 hours to give at the end. So just like with a story, there's a really clear beginning, middle, and end to the structure of this campaign. And at this stage, it's really great to think about what voices you have to hand. So you might have a celebrity ambassador, and we know that they can really help to bring up engagement, or a really confident beneficiary who is just great at public speaking and is really happy to open up. So you can be as creative as you like at this point. And once you have your beginning, middle, and end, you can adapt and reflect that across channels. Surfers Against Sewage kept it really simple and stuck to Facebook organic posts. They have a really engaged community there, so they wanted to share their appeal there, and they knew it would gain some traction without them having to spend a huge amount of money on ads. So like with the email plan, we started with a launch post at the very start, and then published the kind of more fun content in the middle, the which water company is the worst, and then a more urgent ending directly relating to the appeal. So we had a totalizer graphic showing where we were and what we needed, and then a 24 hours to go graphic at the end to nudge people. And what's really key to this is that while you have your fundraising proposition, you don't have to stick rigidly to it. There are different ways that you can kind of show this message. So here's an example from Surfers Against Sewage's founder, Chris Hines. What was really, really nice about this is that he put in input a lot of the writing, his own quotes, and he really gave it his own personality. So while the key theme was now or never, this is showing it and adding a lot of extra authenticity, telling his story about how they started as a bunch of outraged surfers with a mission to get rid of sewage. But then they won vital change in 1997 when Labour came to power, and kind of paralleling then with now, and this kind of feeling of we've made change before and we can make it again. So it's really not boring and serious. It's very much in Chris's own voice. At the very end, he calls himself a moaning, bloody environmentalist. It's hugely motivating and it feels really fun. And in Surfers Against Sewage is really fun language. And again, he at the end of the email, he added in an extra bit about how he's put in £250 himself with a personal donation, and also a PS that's kind of saying, if you might expect more emails than usual. Just a heads up that it won't be for long, so don't get put off or don't unsubscribe, basically. But using it as a moment to say, actually, why don't you just chip in now and give the appeal a strong start? And here's an example of how the same messaging was adapted and used in a really different way. So it's an email from Robbie, who was a swimmer in Cardiff, who was put in hospital for 1 week after taking a dip in the sea. Here you can see that the tone's a lot more emotive. There are short and bold sentences saying things like, I knew something wasn't right. And then it kind of is followed up by an ask to take a poll and donate. But this is mainly about building that engagement and giving people the chance to share how angry they are about sewage. Yeah, there is a cheeky ask at the end to turn anger into action, and donating can help do that. But it didn't quite raise as much money as it was sent midway through the appeal. But it did bring in a good level of engagement, showing that kind of telling an authentic story kind of can work really well for engaging people and getting people to understand your cause from the kind of wider perspective as well. Okay, so now you've got your hook and you've built out your story. Step 3 is testing your tactics. So the sky is really the limit with what tactics you can try. But in a winter appeal, it's really good to follow some key principles. So they are, firstly, give a range of easier and higher commitment actions to take. So for example, that launch appeal, it was very much give money straight away, or an easier action, fill out a quick poll telling us how you're feeling. Bring in supporters into the conversation, ask them to share their opinions, and always prime people for donate asks with kind of more values-based content. But it's really important to test and learn your tactics as well. So if you try a tactic, make sure you test it and you really learn from your results. A winter appeal is a really great chance to find out what works and what doesn't, and you can always build on your learnings for next year to make your campaign even stronger. So here's what we learned from some of the tactics we tried. Firstly, at least 1 email per day is totally fine for a 7-day campaign. You want this campaign to be seen. You don't have much time to make it seen. So busy inboxes mean a lot of your emails might get missed. So you just want at least 1 to get through to your subscriber. And unsubscribe rates were low, showing that people really don't mind a higher volume of emails, especially when it's just for a short period of time. So don't be afraid to send more emails than you feel comfortable sending. And when you have a good reason to email people a lot, like a match funding campaign or a winter appeal, people really don't mind receiving those emails. We also learned that emails where we ask supporters their views led to the highest click-through rates. So as I kind of mentioned before, the poll with the poll email, and also we sent a survey email. These emails don't bring in the most donations, but the high click-through rate shows that they were a really important part of the mix to engage people. And sometimes if you just look at donate rates, you might miss the bigger picture, which is that these emails are engaging and they show a different side to your work, and they give people a chance to share their views. And they don't just show you people's views on the key issues that affect your work. They also help kind of build up an understanding of different sides of your work and get people to be in touch with their values. And it also gives people an action to take with you, even if they're not quite ready to donate. We also learned last year in the 2023 Big Give campaign that graphics actually versus no graphics really didn't make a difference in terms of donate rates. So yeah, it's worth remembering that you don't always need loads of fancy designs to make your emails raise money. And we really pared down the designs this year. So we only made designs that kind of helped visualize complex information, were really simple and easy to digest, or highlighted a key point. So here's an example of an election list, the now or never election plan. We felt like this really summarized what this appeal was all about. So talking about mobilize, what money would be used to do. So mobilize outraged people, call on politicians to support their demands, and hold the next government to account. And yeah, I think we really kept it very simple. We just had this, a totalizer graphic, and then a couple of others So yeah, it was good to use that learning from the 2023 to be able to do that. Next, we tried call out boxes, which are just a little box at the top of an email with a really short call to action and a button. We added this into our 4 hours to go final email to try and encourage donations from people who hadn't yet donated. So within the first hour of the email going out, we did observe a lot of £5 donations coming in. So that suggests that this tactic did work, although it wasn't the highest donate rate out of all the emails, but people did only have 4 hours to donate. But it could be interesting to test this call out box again with a slightly higher prompt and see what happens there. And we also learned last year in 2023 that including these nudge emails was really critical to the campaign and helping them succeed. So that you only have 24 hours to go email worked really well to motivate donors. Obviously, it feels urgent and timely, and it's a slightly annoying email saying, hey, look, you need to give now. And once again, this worked really, really well. It raised 30% more income than on any other day. And it felt like the now or never moment of this appeal. So yeah, just don't stop nudging people at the very end. And finally, it's vital to note that even if a test doesn't improve things, it's still a valuable learning. So we often find that parceling up services into buttons, into shopping list buttons, like £25 can pay for one school uniform, for example, can really help boost donate rates. So we wanted to see if we could boost giving rates in this appeal by including more kind of tangible election-related buttons to see if more people would click on them. We only carried out this test on a small sample size, so the results really aren't definitive. But we did see a boost in results. We didn't see a boost in results, sorry. We actually found that the traditional buttons worked a lot better. But it doesn't mean that this would never work. Like when you look at the button, they're actually very long and probably not hugely emotive. So I think some further testing there could really help. And then the final step is always leave space to be reactive. Reactive emails are about more than just donations. They give you something really authentic and timely to say. They really keep your supporters on the inside track, and they show impact and momentum to your supporters, which all helps to boost donations. So it's really vital that during your campaign, you leave space to react to those unexpected moments that may happen. And I'm now going to pass back to Olivia to talk through how we responded to a really big moment in this year's Big Give appeal, Us Against Sewage.
Yeah, so I think after the first or second email went out, that was signed off by Chris, and he actually received personally an email from a ex-water company director, basically, expressing his sort of shame in the industry. And Chris very kindly let us know about this email. And yeah, just the alarm bells went off in our head, like, oh my God, this is huge to sort of have that from the horse's mouth. Like, there's no way we can sit on this. So we asked Chris if this person would mind us using their quote. They eventually said yes, as long as it was anonymous. And so while this was all happening in the background, I was on Slack to forward action, like, oh my God, this thing just happened. We've got to do something with this. And so you guys, within like a couple hours, turned around this email. We had it sort of sitting ready to go, waiting for sign off from this person. And yeah, when they gave their go ahead, yeah, we got that scheduled in for, I think, first thing the next morning. And this all sort of happened after lunch the day before. So it was such a quick turnaround. And yeah, really was an amazing thing to be able to react to.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, to be able to turn around was such a testament to your really great and clear brand guidelines. So it's really easy to kind of write in your voice, which helped us move faster, and the fact that you were just there to help us react. And that helped bring in an extra 184 donors. So it was definitely worth doing in such a kind of timely and quick turnaround campaign. So when you look at the total income email email by email, you can see that it was this mix of moments and tactics that we've talked about, all propped up by the fundraising proposition, that really helped us meet and go beyond the £200,000 target. Obviously, you can see at the end, the 24 hours to go email raised a huge amount, but that on its own couldn't have met the target. And it was each moment throughout the campaign that helped keep engagement high and give the full picture of what their campaign's about, behind this idea of now or never. So you shouldn't just think I'll go home with just one 24 hours to go email, but kind of try and keep finding your beginning, middle, and end moments that make your campaign really pop and tell the story throughout your appeal. So just to recap, the 4 steps to a perfect fundraising proposition are: step 1, finding your hook, or that all-important angle that makes giving feel really vital and timely right now. Step 2, tell your story through building out your beginning, middle, and end of your campaign with a mix of voices, from celebrities to beneficiaries. Step 3, try and test as many tactics as you can to help your appeal go even further, and make sure you log your learnings as well. And step 4, leave space and time so that you can react when something happens in real time that can help nudge up your campaign. So those were the 4 lessons, and I'm going to quickly pass back to Olivia to talk about what's next for Surfers Against Sewage.
Yeah, so as you said, Jessica, it was a matter of weeks after the appeal finished, and then the election was called, which was a lot sooner than we were anticipating. But thankfully, because of the appeal, we were able to rally and deliver on all our objectives and plans that we had ahead of the election, which was amazing. And yeah, now that we have a new government, we're working really hard to build those new relationships with MPs and ministers to be able to influence decisions and hold them accountable to their plans and election promises, and really push for that change that we need. And also, as we mentioned, the water companies are setting out their 5-year investment plans. So that's what they're going to say they're going to invest and deliver on between 2025 and 2030. So while the companies are making these plans, those decisions can be controlled by what the government is calling on them to do. So it's our job to work hard and ensure the government pushes for those companies to prioritize investment into infrastructure over paying out dividends and bonuses, and see the end to sewage pollution in our rivers and seas by 2030. And then on fundraising side of things, we're just going to use all the amazing learnings that we've had from this appeal to put into our own winter appeal coming up in December.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Olivia. I can see things have been happening in the chat. So yeah, I'm sure there's some questions for both of us.
We've had loads of questions, so thank you very much to everyone who has been posting them in the chat, which is working, and in the Q&A box. We won't be able to run through all of them, but what we will do, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are planning to do a write-up of this webinar and post it on our website. So we'll share the link with you all, and we will answer any questions we don't have time to go through today on the blog as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Just keep the questions coming. So the questions, we have a few questions about the campaign itself, some around the creative, around the segmentation tactics, the email list. So I'm going to handpick a few of them. A few clarifying questions maybe about the campaign to start with. So people are asking if this was purely an email campaign or if we also used any paid social or organic social.
Yeah. So yeah, do you want to go, Olivia? Or I can go.
It was predominantly email. We had social media, the sort of planned nice creatives that Forward Action provided for us, but then also off the back of them, we were able to sort of, as we were seeing good results on socials, do some more ad hoc ones, and it was all organic. We decided not to do any paid this time, mostly just because of time restraints, and just sort of knowing that our organic list is really our key audience, and wanting to kind of build on repeat donations this year.
Yeah, I think Surfers Against Sewage have such an engaged audience that for them, it's like it's really easy to do an organic campaign and make a lot of money, as they've built up this like amazing engaged list over many years. So yeah, it's a testament to kind of being great on socials for many years that they can easily just do it all organically.
And one of the questions was actually about the email list. So how long did it take to actually build that list? And what was the main lead gen to capture email addresses to build this database? As you said, Jessica, it's not happened all overnight. It's been a process that Surface Against Sewage have been involved in over a period of years. We worked together last year actually on a campaign that I think brought in just over 150 opted in subscribers, which was, yeah, really successful. But I don't know, Olivia, if you have any more thoughts to share on that, or otherwise we can follow up later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't sort of speak to exactly how long it's been. We've been, an organization since the 90s, so I haven't been here since the beginning. But, we have a range of tactics that work really well for us, because we're a campaigning charity. So we run petitions. We have our paddle out campaign, or our paddle out protests every year, which are really like awareness building events for us that really help kind of build those lists. And then we also runs a value exchange campaigns throughout the years, which really helps sort of build on that list.
That's great, thank you. Somebody's asking if we consider doing a warm-up email ahead of the actual launch to let people know that the fund is launching in, say, a week and then 3 days. Is that something that was discussed?
I don't think you did. No.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't this year, and it's definitely something that in evaluations, it's sort of a question mark for something for us to try. I think sort of we went really big on, obviously you saw the volume of emails this year, so maybe there was a little bit of hesitation around, even more emails. But as we saw, we didn't see any kind of rise in unsubscribes from this year. So it's definitely something we'd like to try and see how that kind of, how that works.
That very nicely links to a next question. Somebody's asking if you saw an increase in unsubscribe rates for emailing people so frequently. This person is saying that they sometimes see an uptick in people unsubscribing if they email so often. I mean, we have our own general advice around that as forward action, but keen to hear how it played out in this campaign.
Yeah, so our rates really didn't spike sort of past their sort of usual kind of standard unsubscribe rates. We did have some emails through to supporter care being like, why are you emailing me so much? But that's a handful, from a list of 140,000 and, the thousands of donors that we saw. So, you kind of have to weigh up your risk there. I think that it was really worth the urgency of the appeal kind of really really helped justify the number of emails. And also with Big Give being just in a week's window, you kind of have to let people know that this is the window and this is what we're going to do. And most people got on board with that.
Yeah, and I think if you we showed the example of the PS where it just gave a little warning of, by the way, we're going to be emailing you a bit more. And if you're really specific about the period of time, we'll know that it's ending and it's not just like going to keep going on and on. So that might be a nice thing to do if you're concerned about that.
Lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a couple of questions about the creative execution specifically. So somebody's asking about images in email. So what are your thoughts on having images in emails, especially if they're at the top of the email? It can sometimes push the call to action below the fold on the mobile. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in testing, we've always found that actually, including images in email doesn't always do that much. If anything, it might even make your donation rates worse. So especially if you have limited resources for testing, I would actually avoid including an image in an email. But we always say we don't fully know. So you could always A/B test one donation ask with an image and one without to see what works. But as we kind of said, we use images really sparingly, but usually below the main call to action button. And they would just contain something like an image of the totalizer or something where it was like really specifically telling people the ask that we were asking them for. So yeah, have caution with images in emails.
That is good advice. And another question is around bolding. So somebody saying, I've noticed a lot of bolding in the emails. How do you approach this? And what is the intended effect, Jessica?
Yeah, it's something that's become kind of forward action best practice. And it's about I kind of making it interesting when there's a big block of text. People don't have a lot of time to read. And if you just want to draw that eye to the one thing that they need to see, you just make that bold. And the whole idea is kind of imagining that someone was skimming through it in 30 seconds. How can you just mix it up as much as possible just to make it interesting? So one word sentences, bold, text in bold. Even you could try like different font sizes. It doesn't always have to look really pretty, just anything that kind of captures the attention of the reader.
Absolutely agree. Okay, now we have a few questions around segmentation generally. So I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about any kind of segmentation strategies that were used, how much segmentation was being done, and then I guess connected to that personalization, like what was the level of personalization for each of these segments? Did it extend beyond like the first name to bits of copy? So any insight you have to share on that would be great.
Yeah, I can kind of go and sort of set the context for our segmentation, which is right now quite limited. I'm sure most charities can, sort of relate to having, a bit of a journey with our CRM, which is what we're on right now. And so this year we had to do quite manual segmentation. So it was quite minimal in terms of like past big give donors, mid-value versus sort of standard donors, and then our members list as well. So we were able to, in terms of personalization, sort of reference people's like past donating history, you gave to our last appeal, which helped us do this thing. And we'd really appreciate it if you could consider giving again, that type of thing. So that's definitely something that, hopefully by next year's appeal, we can, have a lot better handle on segmentation and really kind of personalize that. But we did what we could this year, and we saw I think 90% were repeat donors this year. So being able to kind of really sort of reference people's donor history really helped, I think.
Yeah, we also did a bit of location segmenting for the worst water companies quiz. Because we were asking people what water companies were the worst, and do you think it's like a water company in your area? So then we kind of separated the quizzes out by which kind of area people lived in, which was quite a fun thing, I thought, a little extra. But yeah, in general, we kept it fairly simple.
And I think more generally, we find that that works quite well, especially for appeals like this. I think sometimes charities can overcomplicate things with over segmenting maybe their lists, and which can create huge workloads for people, and is not necessarily that effective. But I think the level that we did it with this campaign seems to work really well. And Olivia, people have also been asking if you've also engaged with major donors throughout this campaign. And I don't know how much insight you have on that side of things.
Yeah, we did. And we saw some amazing support from our major donors. And we have a major donors team who are obviously sort of handling those relationships, but working really closely with them and bringing them in sort of throughout, every stage of the campaign was really great for them to be able to sort of really, foster those relationships and really kind of speak to the messaging of the campaign and see some really amazing chunky donations that come through. And especially when they're matched, they really kind of help, boost that totalizer up as your campaign goes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask just a more general question now. For charities that are quite small, they don't have lots of staff, they don't have lots of resources, ambassadors, etc. What would be your advice on what they should absolutely focus on to develop a great appeal that is as impactful as this one?
That's a big question, but it's a good one. I think you can still, even if you don't have a celebrity ambassador or anything, you can still create a big beginning, middle, and end. You can still have a kind of feeling of a more serious launch. So whether it's like your CEO or someone kind of towards the head of the organization, you can make things a bit more fun in the middle. So you could even just send a survey on Typeform, which yeah, you don't have to pay much money for, or just a kind of nice story with yeah, a nice little story about some of your beneficiaries. And then obviously that strong end where you give people that nudge right at the end, just saying please give. Um, and we just find nudge emails always work well, even if it's just like a kicker after a launch, just sending another email saying, oh, did you see this email? Please donate if you missed it. So just keep sending people nudges to give as well.
Thank you, Jessica. I don't know, Olivia, if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, that covers it, I think, as well as Jessica mentioned earlier in the presentation, like we didn't have that tangible thing we were fundraising for, but really sort of harnessing the energy of the moment, that kind of, that real sort of on the precipice of change, like we were sort of ahead of the election, really kind of helped, I think, rally people to want to give in that moment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I am realizing we're edging towards 10 a.m. and I know people have other calls to go to. So I think we may leave the rest of the questions for the end. Some of the questions we haven't been able to answer were more tech related around tracking. How were we able to track how much revenue we've had coming in from each email, about the totalizer graphic? We can definitely reply to all of those questions when we write up the blog. There were also some more questions around the demographic of your list, Olivia. Again, we can write up those answers to those questions afterwards as well. I am going to bring this to a close. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. And thank you for sending us your email addresses. Those of you who want to receive a copy of the deck, we'll make sure we'll send it to you. We've had a few emails come through about that as well. The recording will be shared with everyone. So will the blog post with the write-up of the key points and the Q&A that we didn't get to. Thank you so much, Olivia, for making time today and joining us and sharing those brilliant insights from this amazingly successful campaign. And thank you, Jessica, as well. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Good luck with your winter appeal planning. We're always here if you need some support. We're always excited about working on appeals, fundraising propositions. So please do reach out if there's anything we can do to help. Have a lovely day.